Hello, in today's video we're going to be looking at Bubble.io and specifically Bubble's new AI-powered app generator tool. Now, if you've never used Bubble before, it's actually one of my favorite no-code tools. In fact, it's one that I've used almost every day for the past 5 years. I use Bubble because it is extremely powerful. It combines your database, your workflows, and your front-end design all into one stack. I've used it to build everything from software as a service tools to social networks to CRMs and much, much more. So before we try out Bubble's AI-powered app generator, I just wanted to give those of you who haven't seen Bubble before a quick overview of how it works. So this is the Bubble visual editor. On the right hand side here, this is the page that we're going to create. On the left hand side, you can see all the different element types which we can drop onto the page. So starting with visual elements, which can be text, buttons, icons, links, images, shapes, alerts, videos, and so on. And then you have containers, which are things like groups or repeating groups, which is good for showing lists of things, or pop-ups or floating groups, all of which serve slightly different purposes in organizing the look and feel of your page. And then we have the all-important input forms, which is obviously where your users will be able to input information into your app. So you might just grab a standard input there, you might grab a multi-line input, you might grab a checkbox, and then of course you'll want to line them all up. And then you might grab a button at the top and drop it there, and you might want to change the name of the button to say save. And then from this button or from any element on your page, you can add a workflow, and that will trigger when someone clicks the button saved, and then you can say exactly what you want to do. And so now we have gone from the design tab to the workflows tab, and in the options you have when you start a workflow is things like sign the user up, send them a confirmation email, send them a login link. You can do navigation, so you can go to another website or you can go to another page within your app. You can also create things in your database, make changes to a thing, delete things, make changes to a list of things. You can send emails and meeting requests. You can subscribe users to a plan or charge them money as long as you install the Stripe plugin. You can also run analytics if you install the analytics plugin. Then you have element actions, which are used for changing things on the page. So you could show a pop-up or hide a pop-up. You could show a hidden group, which has information in it. Then of course, as well as the payment and analytics plugins, there is a whole ecosystem of plugins that you can install to augment the power of your Bubble app. And then finally, there are custom events, which are essentially a way of organizing your app and organizing your workflows so that you can reuse them throughout the app and make the entire app more efficient in the way it's built. So in our case, when the button save is clicked, we might want to save the information people have typed into those inputs. So we can say we want to create a new thing in the database, and then it's going to say, okay, what type of thing? Well, we don't have any types in our database, so I can just create a new type, and I could call that responses and click confirm. And then because we just created this data type, it's not going to have any fields in it, so we can just create a new field. So let's say the first name we want is name, and we can tell it what type of information it's going to be receiving there. So that's going to be text. We can also have another field that's called answer, and that can be text as well. And then we can have one that is agreed to terms, and that can be a yes no field because we've got a checkbox. And then all we have to do is link up where these fields are going to get their information from. So we know we have 3 inputs here. We've got input A, multi-line input A, and then we've got checkbox A, and then we've got the button save. So if I go back to the workflow here, when button save is clicked, we want a response to be created. We want its name to be input A. So I just search for input A's value in the dropdown. Then we want the answer to be multi-line input A's value. And then agreed to terms should be checkbox A is checked, which will return a yes if it is checked and a no if it's not checked. So that will all be saved into the database. And then next we can reset all the inputs that the person had typed in so that they know their information has gone through. So that is that. We have literally created a functional mini app. If I go back to the design here, I can update this so the placeholder actually says name, answer, and let's change this to agree to terms. So that's how easy it is just to update the information that's actually being displayed. And then if we click preview, we can now see our app live on the internet. You can copy this URL and give it to someone else and they will be able to use your app. But we can do a test here. Tick that box and then click save. It has all cleared out because we said to reset the inputs afterwards. And then if we click here, which is the data tab, we can see here, this is the responses data type that we just created with all the fields we created. And we can also go to app data to see the actual information in the app. And here we can see this is a submission I just did, which has the agreed to terms, yes, my answer is this, and my name. So that is a very quick overview of why I love Bubble. It's so quick to do simple things like that, where you have the database set up, you have the workflows set up, and you have the design. And you can imagine if you keep going with this, you will get more and more complexity and you will build bigger and more impressive apps. But today I'm going to be trying out Bubble's new AI Studio, which promises to let you build an app from a prompt. Now, before I continue, I should mention that this feature is still in beta, so it may not be available to everyone yet. So the interesting thing about this compared to code-based AI app generators is that Bubble is going to generate an app that runs on its own Bubble framework. And this means that once the app is generated, you will be able to edit it and maintain it through Bubble's existing interface, which we just looked at. And this is opposed to if you use a tool like Lovable or Bolt.new, where they have generated code for you using prompts. When it then comes to maintaining and adding to that app, you are restricted to either continuing to use AI to edit the code, or you need to know how to code yourself or work with a developer. So for many people like me who do not know how to code, building with Bubble is a much safer and more maintainable way of building an app. So I'm very interested to see how this AI app builder does in Bubble. So the prompt I'm going to give Bubble is, I am a freelance developer. I need a CRM to help me track my clients, projects, tasks, and invoices. So the first thing it's done, and this took about 10 seconds, is it has given me a bunch of user stories which explains what I, as a user, will be able to do with the app. So I want to easily add and manage client information. I want to create and track projects and associated tasks. I want to generate and manage invoices for clients. And I want to view a dashboard overview of my current projects, tasks, and invoice statuses. So I think that is a pretty good overview based on the information I gave it. And then it's gone into a bit more detail here about what each one does. On the left-hand side, it gives me the ability to refine my app blueprint. And the example it gives is add ability to schedule a notification. So I'm going to say add email reminders for the client when invoices are not paid. So about 15 seconds later, it has updated the app blueprint to include automated email reminders. So now let's click generate. Okay, so it's around 5 minutes later and the app has been generated. So let's see what we have. So here we can see we have an index page. Do we have any more pages? We do. It has multiple pages. Let's look at the client one. Okay, so we've got the ability to add new clients. We can see clients information there. It's also got an invoices page, which has a fairly similar design, and a projects page, also with a similar design, but that's kind of to be expected. So we can see that there are quite a few pages with all of the UI set up, and that's great because that stuff takes a lot of time and it has set it up with a consistent look and feel. The things I'm really interested in are whether the database is set up correctly. So let's have a look at that. So we can see we have the data types here. So we have clients, and with clients we have a name, contact details, and notes. So that's interesting. And they have also tied it to a user, which will enable me to add in privacy rules to protect client information when different users are logging into the app. So that's really good. Let's have a look at projects. So projects are tied to a client, so that's good. They have a deadline, which is a date. They have a name, a status, which is text, and they are also tied to a user. Let's have a look at tasks. Tasks are tied to a project, as you would expect. They have a name, which is text. They have a deadline, and they also have a status, which is text. And then invoices are correctly tied to a client. They have an amount, which is a number, a due date. They are also linked to a project and have a status, and again are tied to the users. So the fact that all of these have the user as a field is really interesting, and that means that Bubble is putting in place the things that you need to be able to add privacy rules, which it has not done, but it would be quite easy to add in privacy rules, which would mean that only the user who is listed on this invoice or this client or this project or task is able to access that item in the database. And then invoice item, so this is tied to an invoice. It has a quantity, unit price, and description. Although it does not have the user field here, which I think you would probably need to add in if you wanted to use the same kind of privacy rules as with the other data types. And then let's have a look at the workflows. So we are on page projects. When a button add project is clicked, it's going to show the pop-up to add a project. So let's just have a look at that in the design view. So we can see project name, client. So here it's got a drop down to select a client, and you can search for a client where the user equals the current user. So these will be clients that whoever is logged in owns. So this is all set up pretty correctly, I would say. Then they've got a date input, they got status. They have added in 4 text statuses here: not started, in progress, completed, and on hold. And then when you click add project, it creates a new project, and the name equals input project name inputs value, client equals the drop downs value, deadline is the dates value, status is the status drop downs value, user equals the current user. So that is all set up absolutely correctly, and it then hides the pop-up and resets the inputs. So that's really interesting. It has actually done everything that I, as a professional Bubble developer, would do if I was going to add a workflow and a pop-up for creating new things, of which I've done many times. So let's have a look at what happens when you click delete. So delete just deletes the parent group's project, so that's correct. Let's see what happens when you click edit. So when you click edit project, it shows the pop-up edit project. So let's look at that. So here we have the project name and the client. So this seems to be the same as the create pop-up. So, but it's not the same. So you've got add project pop-up and edit project pop-up. Okay, so the thing I've noticed here is that if I click edit workflow, it makes changes to a project, and the project it makes changes to is the parents group's project. So let's have a look. So the parent group is this. It has a type of project which is parent group's project, and that's related to this parent group's project, and that's linked to the pop-ups project. So this is almost correct, but what I would expect it to do would be that when you click edit project here, I would expect to see it display data in a group pop-up, and it would display the parent group's project. So my guess is that this, without that workflow would not have worked correctly. However, everything else I've seen has looked really good. So let's give the app a try. So let's go back to the index page and click preview. Okay, so this is a pretty good dashboard, and I really like that they've given us some test data in there so it's not completely empty. So we have current projects, recent tasks, outstanding invoices, total projects, and it looks like these numbers are not correctly filling in, and then invoice reminders. So let me put in 5 and save that. And then I wonder if we can see our settings anywhere. I wonder if that has actually saved. So if we go back to the editor and click on that button, we can see what happens when you click that button. Okay, it creates a new project and it sets the deadline to be input reminder days value. Okay, so that is not correct. I think the reminders would probably want to be saved into a kind of general settings data type. But even so, it shouldn't be creating a new project. It should be either saving that into settings or it should be saving it onto a specific project. Now let's go back here. Let's go to clients. Let's try adding a new client. Add the client. Okay, so it is added our client here. Let's go to projects. Let's add a new project. Marketing overfall. Let's select a new client from the list. Let's set a deadline and choose a status. Let's also see if this filter works. So let's change it to in progress. Click search. Okay, so nothing happens. So that is not working. Let's try Acme Corp. Okay, so the filters are not fully working, but I think it would not take much to get them working. because the drop downs are working correctly. Now let's go to tasks. So here I can select one of my projects, so marketing overhaul, and I do not have any tasks, so new task for marketing, marketing overhaul. Okay, so it seems that add new task is not working. So we can go back here, we can go to tasks, and we can look at the pop-up add task, and we can see what is happening when you click this button. So create a new task, project equals drop down, tasks value. Okay, so it looks like that should have worked. Let's go into our database here, go to tasks and app data, new task for marketing. So that was saved. So the problem we are having is that it is not it's not showing up here on this page. So if we go back here and we look to see repeating group tasks, there's no data source here. Okay, so that would need to do a search for tasks where project equals drop down project selects value. So let's reload this and see if that works. So now if we select marketing overhaul, so now we can see our task. So for the most part, it seems to be working well, but there's just small things like that which are not correct. Again, it's not sending through the information of this task, so I can't really edit it in the pop-up, but I should be able to delete it. So yep, that works fine. And let's have a look at invoices now. I'll try creating a new invoice. Okay, so it hasn't got the clients in the drop-down list. So let's go to invoices and create invoice. So the clients here, it has correctly put in a drop down, but it has not set it up correctly. So that should be search for clients where user equals current user. So the fact that this choices source was already there without me actually having to do anything shows that this was just a case of the AI has correctly set the drop down up, but this choices style was set to static and it should have been dynamic, and it hasn't done the current options name. But yeah, that should have worked. And then let's check the button here, create a new invoice. Okay, and it has not correctly linked up all the fields, so I won't worry about doing that now, but overall I am very impressed with this. Obviously it needs a bit of styling work. This should be sticking to the bottom on all the pages, but as a starting point for an app, considering this only took it 5 minutes, I mean, to make this from scratch would have taken me probably a day or two, I would say, and this has just taken 5 minutes. And yes, there are a few things that need fixing, but as you can see here, most of those things will be automatically identified by Bubble in its issues checker, so you could easily go through one by one and fix those. And I imagine it's only a matter of time before AI can go through these issues and fix them all for you. But overall, I think this is a really positive and impressive experience. The fact that this only took 5 minutes, and it's come up with all of the UIs, all of the pages, all of the workflows and functionality and the data types. And even though not everything is done perfectly, certainly not all of the functionality is quite there, but comparing this to some of the experiences I've had using AI code generators and things like that, where you are constantly going backwards and forwards saying this doesn't work, getting it to fix it, and that taking, you know, at least an hour or more of back and forth to build something which has nowhere near the amount of functionality that this does. I certainly think this is a really good move for Bubble, because it means a difference between someone looking at a completely blank page and then spending a few days figuring out how to do this stuff, whereas instead now they have an app with all the UIs built, and all they need to do really is go in and fix a few small things, and they can also kind of reverse engineer how it was built, and they'll learn a lot about Bubble from doing that. But yeah, I think this is a really positive way to use AI to enhance user experience, and certainly for new users, this is going to be a great way for them to go from nothing to having a working app very quickly. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the improvements that Bubble makes in terms of the AI, so that it can fix the issues when they occur. and also how they can use AI to improve the experience of builders who already have an app and need help with managing it or adding new features and things like that. So yeah, overall a really positive start, and I definitely recommend checking it out if you have access to this beta feature.